We have three vertices of a parallelogram. When you think of a parallelogram, you should be thinking about the opposite sides being parallel and congruent. You should be thinking about the opposite angles being congruent. You think about the consecutive angles being supplementary. You should be thinking about the diagonals bisecting each other. And you should be thinking that if the diagonals are equal to each other, then it must be a rectangle. And see, then all we've got to do is kind of give a quick sketch. It's probably kind of helpful. It's not required, but it's kind of helpful, I think. At the very least, it lets you know in the ball game where you need to be ending up. We've got these three coordinates, and we know that our D is going to be up there somewhere in the first or second quadrant. All right, we use the midpoint formula. Why don't you go ahead and pause this and find the midpoint of AC? That's the diagonal, AC. Okay, hopefully you did that. What I got this is negative 7 plus 3 over 2, and then 3 plus 5 over 2. I'm going to end up with a midpoint of negative 2, negative 1. That's for AC. Now keep in mind, these are diagonals, right? So diagonals bisect each other. So once you find the midpoint of one diagonal, you found the midpoint of the other diagonal. So what we've got to do now is figure out what D is. Well, D is the endpoint of a diagonal. We know the midpoint of the diagonal. So all we've got to do is use our midpoint formula and go backwards. So why don't you go ahead and try doing that? We've got an end and a midpoint, and we don't have the other end. We're going to call that XY. And then see if you can't solve it, and then start back up again when you're ready. Fantastic. Okay, so when I do this, I've got x plus or x minus 3 over 2 equal negative 2, and I've got y minus 11 over 2 equal negative 1. And then when I multiply both sides by 2, I'm going to end up with x minus 3 equal negative 4, and then x equals negative 1. And do the same thing on this side. I'm going to end up with y being a 9. So now I know this endpoint D is negative 1, 9, and since I've drawn a sketch, it makes sense that it's going to be over here. It's not crazy. And so now all I got to do is find the length of the two diagonals. We're going to use the distance formula, x minus x squared plus y minus y squared. Why don't you go ahead and pause that and do those, and then start back up again when you're ready. Make sure you reduce the radicals. Okay, so here's what I've got. AC, I'm going to end up with 164, the square root of 164, which reduces to 2 square root of 41. And then BD, I'm going to end up with a square root of 404, which is going to reduce to 2 times the square root of 101. All right, thanks for watching. Hope that helps.